What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Kari.HQ here, back again with another video. I'm super excited, super happy to be here bringing you this content. We've changed up the studio a tad bit. I'm still working on it. I'm in my new apartment already, so just moving things around, getting used to the new space. Anyway, guys, I want to come to you today and talk to you about why I love Medellin, why it is my favorite city to live in, why I do live here, why I chose to live here, and things that probably most people that choose to live here will agree with me upon on why they love Medellin. So with no further ado, guys, let's get into it. I got 5 big ticket items here, and you may be surprised by what's not on the list. So let's get into it, man. First and foremost, the weather. The weather in Medellin is spectacular, guys. It's hard to find a place that has better weather than Medellin. The only place that really comes to mind to me is maybe Los Angeles, California, or Santa Barbara, California. Some places between LA and San Francisco have super nice climates, okay? But I think I prefer Medellin weather even to the weather of Los Angeles, which is amazing. It hardly rains. It's always cool outside. It's usually sunny with clear skies in Los Angeles, and you have the beach. But in Medellin, you do get a fair amount of rain, and I like that. I like that the rain here is pretty frequent. It comes and goes. It usually doesn't rain a lot at one time. Usually it'll rain for 10 minutes to 30 minutes at a time here, and then the rain will go away, in my experience. So I really like that climate. Another thing that I really love that has to do with the weather is that the weather never changes, guys. Throughout the entire year, Medellin is the same. It's hard to tell the difference whether you come in summertime like June or July, and then if you come in December, the weather will be about the same, guys. It just doesn't change. That's what happens. It's a natural phenomenon that occurs when you're this close to the equator, right? So while the Earth is tilting itself, in North America, you're getting tilted away from the sun, and then you're getting tilted towards the sun, which creates those summers and winters that we are so accustomed to in North America or in Europe or in most of the world. Even in South America, like Brazil and whatnot, they have seasons. But the few countries that lay right around the equator, they don't experience that, those seasons, if you will. So Colombia happens to be one of them, along with like Ecuador. And, if you just trace the equator around the globe, you'll see what countries that includes. But yeah, Colombia is one of them. And so the weather doesn't change. You don't have to plan or think ahead about, do I need a jacket? Well, maybe that. But like, because if you're going up to, let's say, Rio Negro, you'll probably want to bring a jacket. So, but those are okay problems. It's not like, is it going to be snowing? Is it going to snow? Will I have to plow? Or is it going to be scalding hot? Do I have to, limit the amount of time I could be outside with my dog? Things that we have to worry about in very hot temperature places like Texas. And that's just to name a few of the worries that my Texan people have regarding heat, right? So anyway, guys, being close to the equator and then being in a tropical environment is awesome for the weather here. It is just great, man. And you can still wear long sleeve or button ups or maybe a sports coat from time to time, especially at night. You can get away with it. Or if it's a cloudy, kind of rainy kind of day, you can get away with it. When it's super sunny out, it can get a bit toasty, a bit hot. And if you have very sensitive skin, you may even want to throw on some sunscreen from time to time. I got really bad sunburns below my kind of bicep and down my arm because of riding motorcycles with short sleeves on. So now if I'm going to ride my motorcycle with short sleeves, I'll tend to throw on some sunscreen just to prevent myself from getting a really dark tan on the bottom part of my arm. So another thing that comes with being close to the equator is that the sun is very strong. A lot of the stars, the moon, the sun, and all that stuff will seem a bit larger here because technically we're a tad bit closer to it. The point where Earth sticks out the most, you can notice that the sun, the moon, are a lot bigger here, So that also means that the sun is stronger. You're more likely to get sunburn and things like that. So, I think that's a good thing. That's probably why the plants love it here, and they grow so densely and they grow so wild and strong here, probably because the sun is a lot stronger. Anyway, let's go ahead and move into item number 2 on my list today on things that made me love Medellin, why I love Medellin, Colombia, right? Guys, stop saying or spelling Colombia with a U. Colombia has no U's in it. It sounds like it does Colombia, but it's Colombia. Colombia, guys. So that will definitely piss off any Colombians if you mess that up. So COLO when you're spelling Colombia. All right, number 2, natural beauty, guys. I love Medellin because of its natural beauty. When I go to other cities and, I wake up there or I'm outside, I'm looking around the city. This could be cities in the United States, Europe, wherever I'm at. I just look around and I just don't feel as amazed as I am when I'm in the city at any point in time, because in Medellin at any point in time, you can just open your eyes, do a 360 spin, and just look around you, and you're going to see the most beautiful mountaintops, the most beautiful kind of forest, green areas that you've ever seen, really. I mean, even at other cities in Colombia that I've been to, like Cali, Pereira, Bogota, Cartagena, etc., I love these cities, and they all have great things to offer, but the thing that they don't have that Medellin has is the mountains. The mountains in Medellin, they just wrap the whole city like they're just hugging the city. North, east, west, south, there's mountains on every side, and they're very tall, they're very big, and it's just beautiful how the Colombian people, the Medellin Paisas, they built their housing integrated with the mountains, up the mountains and stuff like that. So you can just, whether you're coming in from the airport or you're right in the middle of town, let's say by the Ciudad del Rio, for example, or Belén, La Relas, where it's really low and flat. If you're in these areas, you just look around and you're just taken aback by the natural beauty, by the mountains, by where, just looking and be like, how did I get to this place? Where am I? This is amazing. Because there's very few cities in the United States that have that type of mountainous area surrounding it that is still very livable. There's very many places like, let's say, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Beautiful mountains. Probably more beautiful than the mountains in Medellin, but they have seasons. It's not as livable. It's not as exciting, fun city like Medellin is. So the natural beauty is just pretty amazing here in Medellin. And also, along with that point, I got to say it's a very green city. I just love green cities. One thing about LA that I don't like is that it's a little bit dry and it's a little bit smoggy, it's kind of hard to see far, and you could just kind of see all the pollution. Or it might be a mix of like pollution and what they call that, the fog from the ocean. But still, in Medellin, I feel like it's typically cleaner air. Like some days we get very smoggy days, but I think that has more to do with the high and low pressure in the atmosphere. Typically, especially if it rains, the air is very clean here. You can see all across the city. But again, we do have our days where it's not so clean. But the greenery and just having all the trees and plants and just all the different flowers that you see walking around, it's just a beautiful place, man. It's just a beautiful place. And, when I first got here, it was even more greenery. Now we're starting to run out of that stuff here. And I hope that Medellin government tries to, protect that. I heard that they just built 3 new parks in the city and things like that. So they are trying to protect their natural beauty, which is great to see. And it should be a priority for them, because once you lose that type of stuff and the ecosystem changes, it's very hard to get that back, which is cool too, because there's a lot of birds here, cool birds that you never seen, hummingbirds, parrots, like legit rainbow parrots. You just see them flying around all the time, and just colorful birds that you never seen, panthers, all types of just animals that love and call this place home. So natural beauty's big here in Medellin. You kind of don't feel like you're in the city all the time. Sometimes you just feel like you're in a jungle, which is nice. All right. So let's go ahead and get on to item number 3 on today's list of why I love Medellin, Colombia. Guys, affordability. Affordability is big on why I love Medellin, Colombia. The Colombian peso, guys, makes it possible to live really anywhere in this country without breaking the bank. You know, that alone gets you in the door. You know, you're already winning when you're making American dollars or euros or any strong strong currency. So I'm able to live, invest money, and save and things like that, all with, you know, my salary and what I make for my independent work and things like that, without having to be, you know, held down and boggled down by, let's say, a mortgage or car note or some of those big ticket items that people in the States typically have. It's kind of hard to live in most American cities without having a car. With the car comes a car note. It also comes insurance and things like that, maintenance and things like that, which is pretty expensive in the States. You know, you might get a car, $200-300 car note, and then still be paying $200-300 in insurance. Like, it's very possible for that to happen in the States. And that's a cheap car note. Most people's car note, I think the average is upwards of $600 to $700 a month. So that's a big expense. And then, you know, a mortgage in Texas, let's say Austin right about now is probably around $2,000, $2,000 to $3,000 for a small house. So yeah, man, those are big expenses. Again, with the mortgage, there's also other expenses, insurance and things like that you have to tack on, taxes. Here in Colombia, you're able to, let's say, rent an apartment or buy an apartment for a lot cheaper, or literally a fraction of the price of what that would cost in the United States. Things are done here a little bit differently when it comes to real estate. So you have to learn about that. Maybe I'll do a video on how real estate's different here, but there's a lot of nuances and differences here that you'll have to get used to. But yeah, in general, you can get equivalent housing here for a lot cheaper. On top of that, food and groceries, kind of the things that you're going to need on the day-to-day, tend to be a little bit cheaper here. Not everything is cheaper here. Things like technology or cars, imported things like that are generally more expensive, but they can grow a lot of fruits here in Colombia. They do grow a lot of fruits here in Colombia and vegetables. And, you know, they have their own production for animals, whether it's chicken, beef, whatever. They produce a lot of that stuff and they don't have to import a ton. So the prices are pretty good here for, let's say, food that you would cook. So it's nice, you know. And then the restaurants are definitely a lot cheaper here than the equivalent in the United States. But it's creeping up, guys. I got to say, for example, 2 years ago, it was a lot cheaper. The food, the groceries, you know, and it's starting to creep up and get closer to where United States is on that level. I've seen that over the last year to 2 years. The inflation has really kicked in here in Colombia really bad. Things that I was ordering, let's say on Rappi, you know, 2.5, 3 years ago are almost double the price of what they were back then. So, you know, it's unfortunate. We're getting, you know, we're losing kind of a little bit of the margin of error that we had as gringos living in Colombia, but it's okay. Still a great place to live. And you kind of expect this to happen when so many people are deciding to move here, you know, so you just take the good with the bad, but it's still a very affordable place to live. And then on top of that, you can go into medical expenses, still way cheaper than what they would be in the States. Your public services, your water, your gas, still a lot cheaper than what it would be in the States. Gas for your car is probably a little bit expensive here. Very close to what's in the States, but it could be a little bit expensive. But yeah, I would say in general, most of the things that you're going to use throughout, let's say, a month, right, living here, what you're eating, what you're doing on your day-to-day are going to be cheaper. Again, some of those big ticket items, those imported items can be a little bit more expensive though. So you look into other options if you can bring that with you when you're traveling here or something like that. If it's technology, if it's a laptop, I wouldn't recommend buying it here, or iPhone, I wouldn't recommend buying it here. I would recommend bringing that with you from wherever you're from. Probably get a better deal. All right. Now, time for item number 4 on my list on why I love Medellin, Colombia, guys. Let's go. Geography, right? Is big. Is another reason why I love Colombia, Medellin specifically. What do I mean by geography? Well, first off, the time zone that Medellin sits in is the same as Central/Eastern time in the United States of America. That's right. Depending on the time of the year, you'll be the same time as, let's say, New York, or the other half of the year, you'll be on the same time as Texas. It just depends, because here they do not celebrate daylight savings. And so obviously in the States, we do daylight savings. I heard that it's going to be stopped maybe this year or next year. But for now, that's what we do. That's how we handle our time in the States. And so in the summer, between spring and fall, so that includes summer, you're going to be on Central Time. And then from fall, winter, spring again, you're going to be on Eastern Time here in Colombia. So, that's really good if you're going to work for a company in the United States and you're going to be on a United States kind of work schedule. Then it's great. It's great. You don't have to worry about working in the middle of the night as you would, let's say, if you went to Asia or in Europe. Like I had worked in Europe before on the U.S. schedule, and it really sucks because your day kind of starts around like 12, maybe like 10, 11, 12 out there, and then you'll be working till like 11 at night, which sucks. That's like 5 p.m. in the U.S. is probably like 11 at night for most of Europe. So it's kind of hard. Like you don't have much time to kind of go out. Like by the time you get off from work, if you're on the U.S. work schedule and you're in Europe, it's really late in Europe. So, you're kind of limited in what you can do. A lot of stuff in Europe closes early too. So it's a little bit tough. Whereas though in Medellin, you're right on the right schedule, man. It's perfect. You're able to do work, get off, and still have a fair part of the day as if you were really back at home in the States, which is really awesome. Another cool thing when it comes to geography is you can access a lot of the major airport hubs from Medellin fairly quickly. So let's say Miami is a big one. Panama is another big one. Mexico City, Madrid, and Bogota. You can all get to those fairly easily, fairly quickly from the Medellin airport. And then from most of those cities, you can go anywhere in the world. Like from Bogota, they have plenty of international flights. Panama has plenty of international flights, and so does Mexico City, as well as Miami and Madrid. So if you're trying to get to Africa, if you're trying to get to Asia, you'll likely have to stop at one of these hubs on your way out, and then you can continue on to wherever you're headed. But, it could be worse. Let's say if you were living in like Pereira, you'd have to connect to a big city like Bogota or Medellin and then go to a big hub and then go to where you want to go. So, some of the smaller cities in Colombia can kind of have that problem when it comes to accessing the outside world if you have to travel a lot, or if you go home frequently, or if you travel, frequently. So something to consider. That's a good thing about Medellin. It's centrally located with a airport that has decent connecting flights, I'll say. All right. Now, my fifth and final reason on why I love Colombia, guys, and it's become my home, and, I just love this place so much, is the Colombian culture, all right? In general, I just love the culture here in general. It's just great. Really what makes me like it so much is the absence of certain characteristics that are very prevalent in the American culture, like racism, like gun culture, like feminism. Feminism is definitely growing here in Medellin, Colombia. But I'd say it's a lot less. Gun culture is almost non-existent outside of America. Probably like most of the world is not as crazy about guns as we are in the United States. And then racism, obviously you can see the effects of racism here. It happened. The causes of racism, I would say, maybe not causes, but I would say slavery did happen here. Obviously, it's very clear that happened. History tells us that happened. And we could see that, a lot of the wealth is shared among the fairer skinned people, and a lot of the people in poverty are darker skinned people. And really, if you stay in Medellin, you really don't even get to see the full picture of that. But when you go to, let's say, Choco, or where most of the black areas of the country, you'll notice that they are extremely impoverished, extremely impoverished, versus like the cities and where most of the people live. So yeah, when I speak on that, I'm really talking like places like Choco, where it's very concentrated black population and very much poverty over there. So yeah, slavery happened here. The black people were still affected pretty much in a similar way as being economically kind of limited or things like that. It's going on, but it's just not in your face the same way. It's just not as big of a problem as it is in the United States. And it's really interesting how all this happens and how we develop the culture in the United States and how they develop the culture here in Colombia. Outside of those things, the Colombians, they don't stress a lot. I really like that. I've been trying to reduce stress in my life recently, and I really value things that don't stress me out, places that don't stress me out, situations that don't stress me out, people that don't stress me out. And, Colombia is that type of place. Like, there's things that do stress me out here, but in general, it's not a stressful type of place. Like, if you can't get something done today, usually the people don't trip. They just, they'll wait it out until they can get it done. Like, I've had situations that probably in the States would take a day or half a day or maybe a few hours to get done. And here they take 3, 4, 5 a week, 5 days a week to get done. And you just learn to accept it, You just learn to not stress and just have this kind of cool, calm, and collected demeanor that things will figure themselves out. And you just have to be consistent and keep, following up on things. Sometimes it's what you got to do out here. It'll take a little bit longer, but it'll happen. So I really like that. And there's a lot of studies recently coming out about how stress can really kill you a lot quicker than you're supposed to die. So a lot of people are dying of stress in the States, whether it's their job, whether it's the culture that they're in, yeah, I think a lot of people have bent up stress from the culture, trying to fit into the United States culture can be hard. It's just a lot of opinions, a lot of people that think, you should live your life a certain way in America. And, they're not really shy about telling you how to live your life in America. Here, it's more like, people do different things throughout their life, but people don't judge you as much on whatever you choose to do. You could do something off the wall, and I feel like here they'll accept you more than the States. In the States, they have a tendency to kind of see you as an outsider when you break the mold, which is, I don't think, a good thing. I think people should be allowed to live their life, a little bit more openly and however they want to live it. We have this very strong cancel culture too in the States, which I really don't like. It's something that's come on strong in the last couple of years, and it kind of makes you feel like you can't speak your mind sometimes. I really get that feeling in the States, especially if you're in a position of power or influence. You have to be very careful about what you say. And so that's part of our culture. I think the whole world is starting to pick up that part of our culture, which is not a good thing. But yeah, Colombians don't stress a lot. I feel like, they really like to party. They really like to celebrate. And they just know how to enjoy life and make things fun. So that is my last reason on why I love Colombia, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're coming to Colombia, interested in living here, moving here, or visiting, reach out to me on Instagram at _𝐦𝐸. You can book a consultation with me through Instagram. You can talk and chat about, any questions or concerns you have about Colombia. If you need any connects, if you need to know where something is, just holler at your boy Kari.HQ, and we'll get you taken care of. With that said, man, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I hope y'all enjoyed this one, and I'm out. Peace.